Krishna Ballabha Joy Girivardhari Joy Girivardhari Girivardhari Joy Girivardhari Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Joy Prajajana Ranjana Joy Prajajana Ranjana Joy Prajajana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Joy Kunja Vihari Joy Jamuna Tira Vanachari Joy Kunja Vihari Joy Kunja Vihari Joy on Vishnu Padparam Hangsha Parivrajaka Tarsa Srimad Bhagavatam Arabinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Iskon Pratishtata Acharya Prabhupada ki Shamaveta Gaud Bhakta Vrinda ki Navadip Mayapur Dham ki Sisi Nita Gaud Shitanat Brahmanande Hari Hari Bol Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Shagurajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tang Shajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanashaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakang Vitangscha Mantra Guru Ajota Shikha Guru Ganta Charane Age Korea Bandhan Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Shai Shati Deve Gauda Vani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shandavadi Pashtata Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu-Nityananda Se Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Go Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Prajapati Nama Tayor Akarashid Ya Praksadehad Yamayor Ajayata Tambai Hiranyakashipum Vidum Praja Yam Tam Hiranyaksham Ashuta Shagrataha Prajapati Nama Tayorakarashid Ya Praksadehad Yamayora Jayata Tambai Hiranyakashipum Vidum Praja Yam Tam Hiranyaksham Ashuta Shagrataha Matrimondali. Prajapatir Kashyapa Nama names. Tayo of the two, Akarshit gave, Yaha whose, Prak first, Svadehat from his body, Yama Yaha of the twins, Ajayata was delivered, Tam him by, indeed, Hiranyakashipum, Hiranyakashipu, Vidu, no, Prajaha, people, Yam, whom, Tam, him, Hiranyaksham, Hiranyaksha, Asuta, gave birth to, Saha, she, Diti, Agrajaha. First, I have been requested to read verses 17 and 18. I'll read text 17 translation and then text 18 translation. Srila Prabhupada ki. Their bodies became so tall that they seemed to kiss the sky with the crests of their gold crowns. They blocked the view of all directions, and while walking shook the earth at every step. Their arms were adorned with brilliant bracelets, and they stood as if covering the sun with their waists. They were bound with excellent and beautiful girdles. Purport: in the demoniac way of civilization, people are interested in getting a body constructed in such a way that when they walk on the street, the earth will tremble. And when they stand, it will appear that they cover the sun and the vision of the four directions. If a race appears strong in body, their country is materially considered to be among the highly advanced nations of the world. Text 18. There is an authoritative Vedic translation. Kashyap Prajapati, the creator of the living entities, gave his twin sons their names. The one who was born first he named Hiranyaksha, and the one who was first conceived by Diti he named Hiranyakashipu. Purport: there is an authoritative Vedic literature called Pinda Shidhi, in which the scientific understanding of pregnancy is very nicely described. It is stated that when the male secretion enters the menstrual flux in the uterus, and in 2 successive drops, the mother develops 2 embryos in her womb, and she brings forth twins in a reverse order, so that in which they were first conceived, in reverse order to that in which they were first conceived. The child conceived first is born later, and the one conceived later is born first. The first child conceived in the womb lives behind the second child, so when birth takes place, the second child appears first, and the first child appears second. In this case, it is understood that Hiranyaksha, the second child conceived, was delivered first, whereas Hiranyakashipu, the child who is behind him, having been conceived first, was born second. Srila Prabhupada ki. Mukham kardi bachalam pangam langate girim jakrapatam ham bande shri gudam dinatarinam. Text 17, translation. Their bodies became, excuse me, their bodies became so tall they seemed to kiss the sky. It's very poetic. There was a famous musician in the 1960s. I won't mention his name, but he wrote a song about kiss the sky. At least he said, "Excuse me." But this is the intention of the materialists. They have a big, strong body. It's very popular these days. It wasn't so popular when I was young, but gyms and working out, it's a big thing these days. It's a big thing. It's very popular. Even sometimes they have the gyms on the street, on the second floor, and the glass, and on the street, people are coming and going, and you see them in the gyms, and they're working out. Somehow their enjoyment is increased when they can look at the people coming up on the street. Last year I went to Riga, Latvia. I was there for Janmashtami and Prabhupada Vyasa Puja, and our temple there, it's right on the main street. Right on the main street. Like literally a storefront. And a nice temple, Radha, Gaura-Nitai, and then Prabhupada's deity, and then the windows are there. I'm not sure if anyone here has been there, that place. Such a remote, such a distant place from Sridham Mayapur, Latvia, Riga. And the windows are there, like the big windows, and in the morning where they're doing Guru Puja, and they're dancing, and people are walking past, going to work, you know. It's a very wonderful taste to see these people. And there's a tram stop just outside the temple. So the tram comes and stops, and then and the people on the tram, well, looking right into, we're doing Arati, the Guru Puja, dancing, it's right at the tram stop, you know. So they're very fortunate, the people who travel on that particular tram line. Every day they get a nice darshan of Gaura-Nitai and Prabhupada. So back on the point here, the bodies of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, so big, powerful. They have to be big and powerful and strong and tremendous, like giants. Otherwise, there's no real wonder in Lord Vishnu killing them. If they're just insignificant, weak, usual, standard, there's no real glory. Just like Arjuna's doubts in Bhagavad Gita, he comes up with these different objections. They're actually quite substantial. He says that the Dharma Shastra says you shouldn't argue with your guru, and even if your guru is mistaken, still you shouldn't have a verbal argument. You shouldn't. What to speak of killing? Not at all accepted. The Dharma Shastra he quotes the principle of Varnasrama Dharma. He says that without the what is that? Strishu dushtashu. What is that? That Adama Abhibhavat Krishna Pradushanti Kula Striha Strishu Dushtashu Varshnaya Jayate Varnashankara. When the Strishu Dushtashu, when the women become unprotected, which will happen as a result of all the men being killed, Adama Abhibhavat, they become corrupted. Strishu Dushtashu Varshnaya Jayate Varnashankara. And therefore there's a production of so many Varna Shankara. Varna Shankara means not clear Varna. They're all mixed up. Everyone in the modern society, we're all mixed up. Who's doing Garbhadan Sanskar? So nothing is clear, all mixed up. And generally the conceptions in the modern age, they're basically generally unwanted. Just it's the product of lust. And oh, I got pregnant. Oh. So what sort of progeny can you expect in such a circumstance? So therefore, it's so crazy. It's so crazy in the modern society. It's so crazy. Even we come to devotional service, but still we're carrying a lot of crazy baggage. Just like here in the headquarters of ISKCON, but still devotees can't discriminate between an interstate highway and a pathway in the campus. They just drive the same way everywhere. What backgrounds we're coming from? It's such a, you go, what is bigger, you go out, it's like anarchy on the roads. It's anarchy on the roads in India. It's just like, how people, where is there's not a gentleman amongst them. There's not a gentleman amongst them. And even we're practicing devotional, but with such an environment, the social corruption is so corrupted, these modern times. So yesterday I was visiting Bhakti Raghav Swami Maharaj. He's the pioneer, the Varnasrama dharma pioneer. And it's true, we've neglected. One thing we can all agree upon, that we've neglected actually doing this. It's after so many decades. And Prabhupada in 1968, he purchased land in New Vrindavan, even before expanding in Europe, even all over the Southeast Asia. He purchased so much property in New Vrindavan and sent devotees there. It's 2 miles. There was no road. They had to walk through the mud. Such a remote place. Why? Prabhupada said, grow your own food, make your own clothes, have cows. He wanted that right in the very beginning. That self-sufficient, you could say off the grid, independent from the modern civilization and all of the things that we become dependent upon, petrol and electricity and all of these things which keep us bound up to living in the cities. Prabhupada wanted that, he said, actually grihastas means you should live on the farm, and the sannyasis and brahmacharis live in the cities for preaching, but actually living in the farms and having our own independent social system, our own schools, building our own homes, making our own clothes and everything. That was as important as opening centers and expanding, but we've neglected that. So Maharaj is fully focused on that. He has a school down there behind Rasamrita Kunj. Varnasrama College. Varnasrama College actually means identifying the Varna of the student and then giving them the appropriate training. Is another mistake in the Western society. Everyone's given the same sort of training. The men and ladies. It's so unscientific. The men and the ladies, the same sort of training. Actual training for boys is brahmacharya, and training for girls is chastity. And if they're trained in that way, it's different. It's different training. If they're trained in that way, then the society can be very peaceful. But it's so disrupted. In Varnasrama, you recognize the Varna and you train that person according to their inclination. Right from the very beginning, you give them the skills that they require to make a livelihood and practice Krishna consciousness. And in this way, society. But we don't even know. We don't even know what work we're supposed to do. That can be an advantage for Krishna consciousness, because like in the beginning, when the devotees came to this movement, they did everything. They were prepared to do everything. Prabhupada also was prepared to do everything, any type of work. So that can be an advantage. The science of Srimad Bhagavatam is very wonderful, and so many times in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you were to do a statistical analysis of how often Prabhupada mentions social reformation through the Varnasrama system, it's like an underlying theme, particularly in the first canto. You'll see it so often. Prabhupada is writing. He's writing about Krishna arriving in Dwarka, and Bhagavatam is describing the beauty of the city of Dwarka, with beautiful boulevards that are sprinkled with fragrant rose water and different fruit-bearing trees. I noticed that they planted all fruit-bearing trees on the new road out there. Have you noticed? Mango trees and coconut trees. They're very auspicious. Prabhupada calls the trees that don't bear fruit, he calls them useless. They're only good for fuel. So this is a design a city in that way, with orchards, fruit orchards, and flower-bearing trees, and ponds that will attract the lotus, with lotus flowers, and that will attract swans, and all this can be created. We see some effort, we're trying to do something like that in Mayapur. There is a master plan, so. But in those purports Prabhupada is explaining, he calls the modern metropolis, with the slums and the dungeons of so very graphic and poetic words Prabhupada uses there. It is indicating he feels strongly about that. He feels strongly about that. Actually, he says that all the poor, common people, they're forced to live in abominable conditions in the cities, abominable conditions, all cramped together. And those who can, they have a nice residential arrangement in the rural environment. I was in Rishikesh some time ago, and I was inquiring, as you go higher up Ganga into the Himalayas, Rishikesh is just where Ganga comes, and actually the plateau, the plains begin, the mountains begin after Himalayas. And all of that land on the banks of the Ganga after Rishikesh, going up to Dev-Prayag and up there, it's all purchased by the large corporate companies in India for their resorts. So it's, you know, the common man is actually not entitled to enjoy the natural products of, which are meant, which everyone actually has a right to, living in a nice. And Bhagavatam and so many, all of these aspects, social, the civic, what is that? That's called civic development, you know, construction, and city planning, social development, sociology, everything is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Idam Bhagavatam Nama, Puranam Brahma Sanghitam, literary incarnation of God, Chakara Bhagavan Rishi, compiled by the avatar, Vyas Muni, Nishraya Shaya Loka Shadhanam, Shashti Ayanam Mahat. Nishraya as the ultimate good for all people. All blissful, all successful, all perfect. Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Sadam Upagate, Krishna having returned to his abode, Dharma Jnana Adi Shaha, along with religion and Dharma Jnana and knowledge, Saha, he's returned, along with religion and knowledge. Kalo Nashta Drisham, Esha, those who are remaining in the Kali Yuga, Nashta Drisham, whose vision is spoiled, actually destroyed, Nashta Drisham Esha. Puranako Adonoditaha, will get light from this Purana, Puranako, like the sun, is like the sun, brilliant like the sun. Puranako Adonoditaha, and is just risen after the departure of Lord. How blessed we are to have Srimad Bhagavatam. And how kind and what a wonderful contribution to humanity Srila Prabhupada made by translating Srimad Bhagavatam in English. Recently we were doing research, we developed a course, a new course recently, Srila Prabhupada introductory course. Actually we're launching it today. in the SMIS, Sri Mayapur International School. We're going to teach that course for the first time. How exciting. So you may get an opportunity, it becomes more available. So that course is on the book, Prabhupada, Messenger of Godhead. It's a 1-volume summary of Prabhupada Lilamrita. And Janmashtami Prabhu is here, so I'm being influenced by his Bapu Shakti to describe this. When we were young devotees, we were, this 40 years ago, in the temple room, there was the bookcase, and there would be the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, a few other hardcover books, the Science of Self-Realization, Teachings of Queen Kunti, Nectar of Devotion, like a bookcase was made. And the Prabhupada Lilamrita was there. And that was life in the temple. Can you believe there was no YouTube? Can you believe such a life? No YouTube, no Facebook. It didn't exist. Even we used to have cassettes. There's cassettes. You probably, what's he talking about? Cassettes, little plastic things there, and the tape, cassette tape, it would get tangled. You had to put your pen in there and unwind it. It was like historical information for you today. Even before that, there was a thing called records. These devotees used to sell on the street, records. So going back into the ancient history now. So we didn't have the digital world. It didn't exist. And we'd read the books. We'd read the books, because there was nothing else. Just read the books. Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'd read. And then for relaxation, we'd read the Lilamrita. I remember Korma Prabhu, he was the head pujari, Korma, famous cook, a head pujari in the temple. I joined. Because of his cooking, I joined. He cooked the feast, Korma Prabhu. He's such a wonderful, transcendental devotee, loved by Prabhupada. He cooked for Prabhupada the puris. Prabhupada was eating the puris. Prabhupada said to the servant, he said, the person who cooked the puris is perfectly following my instructions. He said in the class one time, he said, Lil Amrita, don't just read Lil Amrita. Don't just read Lil Amrita, you have to read the Bhagavatam, in other words, we were reading Lil Amrita too much. Too much. Even I have an audio book, I listen, audio book. I particularly like the Lifetime in Preparation, Prabhupada in India. Did you know so many things you may not have known? Like, for example, in Prayag, where Prabhupada lived for 10 years, that place, I've never been to that place, the apartment. The address is there. Prabhupada lived there for more than 10 years. He had Prayag pharmacy, and he had his family there, had children there, and conceived children there. His second child was a girl, Lakshmana, Sri Lakshmana, and he, in late mid-1920s, he taught her the Bengali translation of the Guravastikam. This is before he was initiated. And Prabhupada, he had a cow in the city. I was discussing with Maharaj yesterday. He had a cow. How do we know that? Because when Gaur Mohan Day, he passed away, he called Abai, he said, give the cow in charity to the Gaudiya Math, which Prabhupada had personally helped establish and collected funds for, and helped his godbrothers, sannyasis, meet the businessman in Prayag. Prabhupada was well networked, being a businessman himself. And there's such extraordinary activities. So I particularly like Prabhupada those years in India. But, we like everything, but because we're in India, you can visit these places. Like, for example, Sitakanta Banerjee Lane in Calcutta. Who's been there? Sitakanta Banerjee Lane in Calcutta. Who's been there? No one's been there. I also haven't been there. But I'll go there this year. That's where Prabhupada, he lived there from 1938 to 1945. He lived there for 8 years. It's in Calcutta. And Prabhupada lived there for 8 years. We know he had his childhood pastimes on Harrison Road, is now MG Road, 51 Harrison Road. There's a Govinda Bhavan. Whether the original building is there, it doesn't look like it. There's more recent buildings put there. Radha Govinda Mandir, just opposite Prabhupada. Every day he was going Radha Govinda. Before, Prabhupada writes it when I was 1.5 years old. He can remember seeing Radha Govinda every day. From 1.5, who can remember what was happening in your life when you were 1.5 years old? You remember? I can remember from 1 to 10 or one thing. Everything else forgotten. I remember my fourth birthday. I got a Batman suit. And then I don't remember anything else for 10. And then I remember 10, someone said, oh, now you're double figures. Oh, now everything else I forgot. And Prabhupada, so many things he remembers. He remembers from the time he was 1.5 years old. He had typhoid. And Kartik Bosch was the family physician. And he said, has to eat chicken broth. And Gaur Mohan, no, not possible. We cannot cook such things in our kitchen. Gaur Mohan Day and Rajani, his Prabhupada's mother, they were both from Gaudiya Vaishnava families. And Prabhupada, he says that he would wake up at night and he would see his father bowing down to Radha Govinda and ringing the bell, offering the arti. Who has grown up in such an environment? Perhaps one or two, but perhaps your children are fortunate to be able to grow up in where your father is, you're seeing your father worship the deities. Shalagram Shila also, he was worshipping Gaur Mohan Day, Shalagram Shila. And he had Japa Mala, in the evening he would chant his Japa, and he would read Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Prabhupada is seeing this from the very beginning of his memories. And every day he would go to Radha Govinda Mandir, and that was Prabhupada, his first memories were of going to that temple.
how wonderful is that? Prabhupada's from very first memories, recollections of consciousness, awakening, the senses becoming awakened as a young infant and growing. He's seeing Radha Govinda, he's seeing the arati being performed, the deep, or the chamor, the dressing. He's describing these things. We're discussing in this course about how that has influenced ISKCON. The worship of Radha Govinda that Prabhupada saw in the songs that we sing, the bhog that we offer, all of these things. Everything is Krishna's arrangement, but still Prabhupada grew up in such an environment and had such an effect on his consciousness. And then his meetings with Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, first meeting 1922, and then Prabhupada left Calcutta. In 23 he went to Prayag. And so he wasn't able again, the headquarters were there on Ultadanga Road. We hope you've all been there, Ultadanga Road, such an important Tirthasthan. And our devotees in Calcutta, Ananga Mohan Prabhu, Radha Raman Prabhu have renovated that place so wonderfully that you feel the presence of Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and such an important Tirthasthan. Gaudamar Jai Shabrasthane, Korila Brahmana Ronge, Shai Shabrasthane, Haribo Ami Pranayi Bhakata Shange. How important it is to visit the places of pastimes where such, that's Gaur Lila. It's Gaur Lila. Although Gauranga, he wasn't personally there, but the Gaur Lila happened there because Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, you teach Gaudavani in English. And of course, Prabhupada describes that he wasn't particularly a politically interested person. There was the nationalist movement. It was a movement of Swarat, Gandhi. And Prabhupada, he wasn't particularly a politically interested person, but he liked the values of Gandhi that he demonstrated in his character, and Subhash Chandra Bose, who was also in Scottish Church College the year ahead of Prabhupada. He liked the values that they presented. For example, Gandhi, he carried Bhagavad Gita, and he would read Bhagavad Gita every day. And simple living, high thinking, I believe also that's a motto of the independence movement. Simple. And he made his own clothes on the spinning wheel. And Prabhupada appreciated the Vedic values. And Subhash Chandra Bose also the vegetarianism and the simplicity in life. And there were some high values. And that's why Prabhupada was somewhat affiliated to the movement. But that affiliation was quickly evaporated when Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave Prabhupada the Bogan and explained that ahoitiki apratiyatayayatma suprasiditi, that Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita ahoitiki apratiyata. There's no circumstance can prevent its practice. Ahoituki apratiyata cannot be restricted by circumstances in which it's. So we don't have to wait for the occupying nation, occupying, what is it called? The occupying army, the British Army were occupying India. We don't have to wait to get independence. We don't, whether they're occupying us or whether they're not occupying, it's not relevant. It's not an issue. Because Krishna consciousness it cannot wait. It should be the main priority under all circumstances. Similarly, Gaushundar, Shri Satchidananda, and Gaudhari. This Pavitra Dham, Navadip Dham, he appeared. Actually, at the time, India was under the control of the Mughals. And Bengal was ruled by a foreign invader, Nawab Hussain Shah. And the capital of Bengal was in Gauj, which is now called Malda. And you can go there from Navadip by train. It's about 6 hours. And you'll see the palace of the Nawab Hussain Shah and different other places of the capital of Bengal. And you'll see the prison where Sanatana Goswami was put in jail. All of those things are still there. So the whole of Bengal actually was a huge kingdom. It extended all the way almost through into Bihar. And it extended in the east all the way to Myanmar. Chattogram, Purva Bengal Bhumi, Chattogram, and Ramuna is a huge Bengal kingdom. And at the time, actually, there was a war between Orissa and Bengal. Orissa and Bengal were at war when Mahaprabhu appeared. the Hindu king, Prataparudra Maharaj, and Nawab Hussain Shah. When you go, if you go to Ramkelli in Malda, Ramkelli, Mahaprabhu, he went there to deliver Rupa Sanatan. Aj hoite toma naam rup sanatan dhanna chara toma dhanna fete mon. Today, from today, you'll be called Rupa and Sanatan. Mahaprabhu went and delivered them, and then returned. It's interesting that Sanatan Goswami, first meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, first meeting, Sanatan Goswami, Nicha Jati, Nicha Shangi Potit Odham, Kubishai Kupe, Goinanu Janam. In ISKCON, we like to say, it's the common parlance, we like to say, oh, no, Prabhu, I'm not qualified, I'm the most fallen. We say that, but actually we don't believe it. I don't believe I'm the most fallen. There's so many other people that are more fallen than me. But we say, no, I'm the Odom Potit. But Sanatan Goswami actually believes. Nicha Jati, well, low birth. Nicha Shangi, low association. Potit, fallen, sinful. Odham, the lowest of man. He's not just saying that. He thinks that. Just like when Keshav Kashmiri was coming into Navadip, the students, Mahaprabhu was saying, everyone's afraid, all the pundits are running away. Chaturdik hoite lok, Navadipe jai, Navadip poile she bidarash pai. Everyone was coming to Navadip, all the scholars, and they were all afraid of Keshav Kashmiri. And he's coming on an elephant with an entourage, with a band party, and horses, and he riding on an elephant. Imagine cruising into town on an elephant with a band party. How proud. So proud. He was such a scholar. He had the mantra for worshipping Saraswati Devi, and she was so much obliged by his mantra jop that whatever he would speak, she would personally appear on his tongue. She would personally appear on his tongue. And Mahaprabhu said, you quote, glorify Ma Ganga on the spot, spontaneous. He began 100 verses. Glorifying Ma Ganga. It's amazing. And all the students, their mouths are aghast, dropped. They never heard such poetry, such composition. And he's finished. And then Mahaprabhu says, oh, can you give the bit of feedback? Some room for improvement? There's no mistake in my poetry. And Mahaprabhu, he picked out one verse. Not in the middle, not in the beginning, not at the end, in the middle. What does that mean? That means he memorized them all. He picked out one in the middle. Means he would memorize them all. Joto Bako Gangadas Pandit Koren Shukrit Shunile Matro Tako Doren. Whatever Gangadas Pandit said, Shukrit Shunile Matro Tako Doren. Hearing it once, Nimai would remember. So even from childhood, he had this perfection, the siddhi, that whatever he heard, he would remember from childhood in school. And so he quoted that verse, and he picked out all the Bhavani Bartur, all of these different mistakes, and then he's saying that's just one verse. But if you analyze all the verses, there'll be hundreds of mistakes. And the Pandit was silenced. He couldn't say anything. He couldn't respond. And the students, Mahaprabhu's students, they started laughing. Mahaprabhu said, "Chup karo." But actually, Mahaprabhu, he delivered him in a private place. He didn't wait for the big public because it would be too humiliating. So he defeated him just when they first met on the spot. So as he was coming into town, the students were describing his entourage, and Mahaprabhu said that a tree laden with fruit hangs low. So actually, as one advances in Krishna consciousness and cultivates divine qualities, Yashashti Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana Savar Gunas Tatra Shamashate Shudaha, the divine qualities of the Devata, divine qualities, they are developed in the character of a Kinchan Bhakta, the one who's Yashashti Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana. So the more one advances and revives his spiritual, the more humble he comes, the more he considers himself insignificant, just like Sanatana Goswami. He's thinking Nicha Jati, low born, Nicha Shangi, low association, Potit Odom, sinful, fallen, ku-bhi-śai, ku-pe, ku-bhi-śai. Not just bhi-śai, enjoyment, but ku-bhi-śai, big time enjoyment. Ku-bhi-śai, ku-pe, goinanu janam. I've wasted my life deep in the well of a deep dark well of sense gratification. And that Mahaprabhu, he said, Mahaprabhu couldn't tolerate. He felt that. It affected Mahaprabhu. He said, Aj hoite tomanam rup shanaton. Today I'm calling you rup sanatan, I'm giving you the names. Dhanna chara, give up your humility. Dhanna chara tomar dhanna fete mon mon. Your humility is breaking my heart. Fete mon mon. And then when he went back to Puri, Sanatana Goswami on that first meeting, he recommended, it's astonishing. The first meeting, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Sanatana Goswami, he gave advice. He gave advice. He said it's not good to go to Vrindavan with such a huge crowd. And Mahaprabhu went the next day, Kanayanata in the morning, took bath, and he's saying what Sanatana said is very good. And so he returned back to Jagannath Puri. Somehow we got from Prabhupada in Calcutta, Siddha Road to Ramkali. Anyway, back to Prabhupada and the Bhagavatam. Yeah, we were looking at Prabhupada, the times he met Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So there was quite a period, 22 to 1933. Again, the Gaudiya Mat sannyasis came, Prayag, and we've heard that you're, pious, and they came to his shop, and he began helping them, collecting, and then he was initiated in Prayag. And there was a meeting again. Yes, I've marked him. And Prabhupada went to Kochi one night for Vrindavan Prikrama, and he heard a lecture. I only heard 2 lectures, it appears. And first in Ultadanga Road, and then in the Vrindavan on the Prikrama. 2 lectures. There's no recordings, no YouTube every day, Facebook, Guru Maharaj's class. But he was reading the books. He had taken the books and he was reading the books of Saraswati Thakur. And then Prabhupada said that he would try to come to Kolkata he would come from Prayag, try to come to Kolkata and visit Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. On occasion he came here to Chaitanya Math. One time they saw a snake and that Leela is there, and Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur came out and said, kill the snake. So Prabhupada had come to Chaitanya Math. But at that time he was living in Prayag. And then there was a few letters where again, and then the meeting in Radhakund. And he said, if you ever get money, print books. And then he wrote in the letter, I feel that you could become a very good English preacher. But we don't particularly see any specific mention to Srimad Bhagavatam specifically. Srimad Bhagavatam. However, Prabhupada writes in Bhagavatam purports, he says that being ordered directly by my spiritual master to compile Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's very interesting that Prabhupada, he knows the desire of his spiritual master, even though it wasn't necessarily spoken directly, just like Narad Muni. He gave general inspiration to Vyas. Ata Mahabhaga Bhavana Moga Drik Suchi Shravasattara Todirabrata Urukama Shakla Bandhamuktaya Shama Adina Nushmara Tad Bichestitam. You're so qualified, pure, fixed in vow, highly fortunate. Samadhina Nushmara, you meditate. Samadhina Tad Bichestitam, on all the detailed pastimes of Urukrama and describe them. And he didn't go into detail explaining, 12 cantos, this Leela, that Leela. He left that up to Vyas, to his own inspiration. But the general instruction is there. So what a boon, what a contribution to humanity. And Prabhupada was focused from 60 to 64, he was focused on publishing Srimad Bhagavatam. He published it in 3 volumes. You can see those, I'm not sure if we have one here. In Vrindavan, those 3 volumes originally published by Prabhupada. In Juhu, in Melbourne, where there's original volumes signed by Prabhupada. And he first volume, and he collected in he was at that time in Delhi and Vrindavan, the Bangshi Gopal temple in Vrindavan, and he was going from there, Delhi. He published the first volume, and then sold that. He went Hanumat Prasad Poda in Kanpur, and he got a donation, 4,000 rupees, to publish the first volume. And then another donation from an executive in a Bengal sugar company, another 5,000 rupees, published the second volume. And then struggling, he went to Mumbai in August 1964, and he got Sumati Maraji to sponsor the third volume. Actually, I take note of that because I was born in that month. So when I was born at the time, Prabhupada was in Mumbai collecting and got a donation from Sumati Maraji. So that's a special time on this planet. And all of those people who were here on the planet when Prabhupada was personally preaching, naturally it's a very great fortune. And then Prabhupada had the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he arranged the last things, passport and the P form, and somehow or other, with great astonishment of the staff of Sumati Maraji, he was able to get the passage on the Jaladuta, and he took with him the Srimad Bhagavatam. He had the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada felt that this will be sufficient with the holy name and myself and the Srimad Bhagavatam. That will be sufficient to go to the West and fulfill the order of my spiritual master. So, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Any questions today? Janmashtami Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a wonderful class. I have an unusual question. Most of us are Varnasankaras by birth. So, in establishing Divi-Varnashram, usually based upon, the Varna that we took birth with, I think, right? Or, so, can someone be like a mix of like a Brahmin, Kshatriya, maybe a little Shudra and do service? Or how does that all work? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the Varna Sankara is we're all confused and we can't really do anything properly. But a transcendentalist, like when Prabhupada, he could do everything. Prabhupada could collect money, Prabhupada could lead, he could organize. And what a scholar, what a Brahmin, he could absorb himself and study and preaching and writing. So Prabhupada on Transcendental, he wasn't influenced by the modes. It wasn't that his nature is inducing him to act in that way. He was simply acting out of inspiration of the order of the spiritual master and acting transcendentally. I guess there's a gray, we try to, we're inspired, we do so many things, gradually we keep doing it. You put the iron rod in the fire, gradually becomes red hot, so we keep practicing, then eventually all of the influence of the modes and our disqualification of being Varna Shankar, that'll also become irrelevant as by practicing Bhagavad Bhakti.
Jai.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. What exactly it means to be humble or humility, and if I practice this humility, the quality of humility, until I really reach to the point of real humility, would it be a pretense? How do we know?
Being humble, well, you just should evaluate and analyze your actual character. And then you'll become humble because you're seeing Jogata Bichar Kichu Nahi Pai. When I examine myself, Jogata Bichar Kichu Nahi Pai, I see I have no good qualification. So proper self-analysis will help you become humble because you see that actually I'm just a cheater and I have no good qualification, and you'll see. So Jogita Bicha, and analyze proper self-introspection. Jogita Bicha Kichu Nahi Pai, Tomar Karuna Shara, your mercy is everything to me. So that's proper humility. Just try to understand. I sometimes think, someone asked me in Rath Yatra, Kolkata, someone asked me in question and answer booth, they asked me your destiny, you become a devotee, but still your destiny, you're controlled by your destiny. And I responded, I said, well, I don't think it was my destiny to leave my place of birth and come to Bengal and learn the Bengali language and do village preaching in Bengal. I don't think that I would have done that anyway. I don't think I would have done that. I don't think it was my destiny. So in Krishna consciousness, you change your destiny. So when I reflect on my life as a devotee, it's Jogita Bicha Kichu Nahipa Tama Karuna Shada. It's all the mercy of the instructions I got from my spiritual master, who told me to do these things. And in doing them, we were steady, we were able, it worked. I had no idea to do these things. So just think of your life without the Vaishnava mercy and Vaishnava instructions. Where would you be? That's how you become humble. It's all Tama Karuna Sada. It's all your mercy and your care and your instruction and your inspiration. That's what's everything in my life. Apart from that, I'm just with nobody. Nobody. So you become humble. It's not me. It's all your association and the kindness you showed upon me, the Vaishnavas. Mantra Guru, Ajota Shika Guru Gonta, caraṇaiḥ Age Koriya Bandhan. The initiating spiritual master, Ajota Shika Gon, and all of the kind devotees who have encouraged us and supported us on our life in Krishna consciousness. They've given us everything. So we become humble, recognizing this reality. And without their mercy, we're nothing. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi ho.